Hey guys, I realize that I'm recording this a day early, so forgive me. I'm trying to get ahead of my work so that I can take the time to do some other things that I need to do. We are going to do the second part of our lesson on um, checking accounts. Sorry, one of those kind of days. All right, so earlier today, we talked about the four types of guaranteed checks. We talked about, let me go back through these. Guaranteed checks. We talked about certified checks, cashier's checks, money order, and traveler's checks. And now we are ready to move on to how do I write a check in the first place? Now, this might seem rather mundane and boring if you've done this before, but I was surprised at how many people have never written a check before. And even when I hand one to my kids, here, go write this, go do this, I'll sign it and you fill it in. They're like, I don't know how to do this. So I'm going to go through it anyway. Okay. So if you've done it before, just think, okay, this is an easy lesson. Okay, first of all, the one thing to remember is when you're writing a check, pay attention to the details because the details do matter. Okay, the first step is your date. And there's two things to notice about the date. First of all, post date, let's talk about two different types of date. Obviously, if I write a check today, I should date it today. But there are two different types of checks that can catch you. The first is a post dated check where if I go to the bank today, if I not go to the bank, I wouldn't do this at a bank. If I had to pay my rent and I know I'm not going to get paid until the first of the month, but I don't have time to take a check in on that day. So I take a check in on the 30th and I say, would you please not cash this until the 1st? And I write it on the check for it to be paid. I write the date on the check for the 1st, not the date that it is today. Well, that's all well and good. You can think that that will happen, but that is no guarantee that that is the way it will be handled. First of all, the person who receives the check may not notice the date change or may forget about the date change and try to deposit it anyway. And the bank don't rely on them to look because they're not going to. Okay, they're not going to catch that. And then they'll end up depositing the check for him, taking the funds from you before they're even in your account, and you'll end up overdrawn. So the wisest thing to do is just not to post date them. Figure out a different way to do it. The other problem you need to know about is a stale dated check. Now, a stale dated check is a check that bears a date that is more than 6 months old. Once a check is 6 months old, the bank does not have to take it. Okay, so if you have written a check out of your account and it was more than 6 months ago, the person cannot go and cash it. Okay, so you can feel free to write that one off and it's not going out of your account. So don't hold on to a check for more than 6 months. And definitely you don't want to do that. Hold on to a check for more than 6 months. Go ahead and deposit it. It actually, speaking from somebody who balances my checkbook every month, it's so much easier if you just go ahead and deposit the check so I know where that money is and I don't have to be keeping track of it. Okay, step 2 is to put the payee on the line. It says pay to the order of and then a blank. And you need to write the name of the person or the business receiving the check. Do not ever leave that line blank. Don't let them fill it in. Now, some places like doctor's offices and grocery stores will offer to print it for you. And, usually that's fine, but you might want to double check it before you sign it. A blank name will leave you open to theft. You don't want somebody stealing that check from you and writing their own name in there or changing the amount, which we'll get to in just a minute. So you definitely want to fill in who is the payee on that. Okay, step 3 is the amount. You have to put this in two different places. It has to be written in words and written in numbers. And the numbers are on the upper right hand, in the right hand side. The words are written on the line underneath the payee. If these two amounts don't agree, The bank is legally obligated to accept the words as the correct version. So make sure your words are correct. This is a place where it is easy to make an error, and if you do, don't scribble it out. Draw a line through it, write the correct amount, and then initial that correction so the bank knows that you made that correction and not the person who is receiving the check. Otherwise, they won't take it. Okay, step 4 is to sign it. Your signature should match the signature that you have on file at the bank. So if you have, for example, for me, my signature on file at the bank is Michelle A. Parker. That's my whole legal, well, not my whole legal name, but it's what I have on my checks. It's the name that I've printed on my checks. I should sign it that way. I should not sign M. Parker like I tend to do, because that could leave me open to my checks not being accepted. Don't ever sign a check and leave it blank in your purse or in your wallet. Okay. If you're going to carry a check around with you, leave it blank, completely blank. Don't sign it and leave it there, because if it gets stolen, somebody could wipe your account out. Okay. And then thirdly, and that should be an obvious one, keep your checks and your deposit slips in a safe place where they're away from the possibility of theft, because even a deposit slip that is stolen and you think, wow, I'd love for somebody to deposit money in my account, they can steal your account information and then get into your account. So you don't want that information out there. Okay, making deposits. Your book, goes into quite a bit of detail about making deposits. And honestly, most banks anymore have gone paperless, so they don't really require deposits anymore. And you can actually deposit through an app on your phone. I can do that. I take a picture of the front and the back of the check and send it on its way. I do not, I keep the check for, I think it's a month is what the bank requests me to do, and then I shred it. But I keep it until I know it's deposited safely in my account and it's cleared and it's okay. And then, like I said, I shred it. But that is, for me, the easiest way. Of course, you can't deposit cash that way. That would be a wonderful thing to do, because then you could go spend the cash too. But you can deposit checks that way. And when you deposit a check, you do have to endorse the back side of the check, signing your name just as it's written on the front of the check. And we talked about this a little bit in the earlier video, that if you ever got a check that was made out to you and somebody else, then you both need to sign and endorse that check. Okay, if it's made out to you or another person, then only one of you has to sign it, exactly as your name appears on the front, even if your name is misspelled on the front. Okay. Once you give a check to somebody, what happens if you want to, for some reason, stop payment on that check? Let's say you pay a bill and then you find out, this has happened to us before, then I find out that my husband already paid the bill. Oh no, we've paid it twice. Okay, so I need to stop payment on a check. I can do that if it has not yet been cashed. I can get a stop payment order at the bank, which guarantees the bank will not honor that check for the 6-month period that it's alive, so to speak, and then after that it's dead anyway. Most banks charge about $30 for this service, so if that check is written for, $20, it might not be worth it to issue a stop payment order on it. And of course, then if you also want to be careful, if you've written a check for a service that you actually did receive, then you're messing with your testimony at that point. You need to make sure that you've paid for services that you have received. Okay, reconciling an account. This is also called balancing your checkbook. I actually have to do this tonight, and I really don't want to, but I should have had it done weeks ago. Why would I check my balance? Why could my checkbook balance not agree with what the bank says? Well, there's a lot of reasons from day to day that they may not agree, but I always make sure that they balance at the end of the month. But there may be deposits that have not yet been processed and have not reached my account. There may be checks that haven't cleared my account, where I went out and spent money and it hasn't cleared my account. Maybe I added or subtracted wrong. Maybe the bank added or subtracted wrong. Now, those days are pretty much behind us in that most of this stuff is automated. I even use a computer program for mine so that I'm not doing the adding and subtracting. But even in that case, I still check my balance every month and make sure that it matches what the bank says. And then, of course, there may be interest on your account depending on what type of account you're reconciling, or fees on your account that were not included. If you, for some reason, had an overpayment, an overdraft charge, you need to make sure you take those out of your balance so that you know where all your money is. It's just being a good steward, being wise with the money the Lord has given you. Okay, that's all I have for the rest of this section. I'm going to ask you to read the rest of the section, and then the next couple of days we'll be working on some exercises in your book, and I might have these done in a little different way. I'm still contemplating that, but I'll make sure you have all the details that you will need. Okay, all right, y'all have a good day.